Who was Napoleon II? So, you all know who Napoleon I, or just Napoleon, was. First Emperor of the French, took power after the Revolution, ruled from 1799 to 1815. He was short. Actually, no, he wasn't. Ha ha ha, you've all heard this before. And I'm willing to bet at least some of you know who Napoleon III was. President of France from 1848 to 1852, and then Emperor of France from 1852 until 1870, when he got his ass kicked so hard by the Germans, it ended the entire idea of France ever having a monarch again. But you probably realize, my astute audience, that there is in fact a number between 1 and 3. So, who was Napoleon II? Napoleon II, full name Napoleon François Joseph Charles Bonaparte, forgive me for my pronunciation, I don't speak French and pray I never do, was born at the height of his father Napoleon Bonaparte's reign on March 20th, 1811. A few months after his birth, baby Napoleon was baptized in a massive ceremony inside the famous Notre Dame Cathedral. There was a whole lot of pomp and circumstance about the whole thing, and famous Napoleon took his son in his arms and raised him up to the crowd not once, but twice, in the type of defiance of typical norms that the little general was known for. One observer of this at the time wrote that as Napoleon did this, in the monarch's face could be seen the great satisfaction that he took from this solid moment. Because, after all, Napoleon wasn't really looking for a son, he was looking for an heir. In addition to being the heir of the Empire of France, Napoleon also made his son the King of Rome, which France had control over after gomping up pretty much every European country that stood in its path. 3 years after baby Napoleon's birth, the Bonaparty was coming to a jarring end. Because of a stupid war he started in Spain and an even stupider war he started in Russia, along with some other less interesting factors, Napoleon was now losing war number 6 with basically every other ruler in Europe, who was just a tad pissed off with him at this point. It came to its conclusion in 1814, when Napoleon was driven all the way back to Paris and was now desperately fighting to keep his throne. But hey, you know what they say, when a dog is in a corner, that's when he fights the oh, no, he just got his ass kicked. Okay, so after that defeat, Napoleon agreed to abdicate his title of Emperor of France to his son, who was now made, that's right, Napoleon II.
Roll credits.
The coalition members against Napoleon didn't like this idea, however, maybe because good old Napoleon II was at the ripe old age of 3, or maybe because all the coalition members had the same mindset of hating all things that began with an N and ended with Napoleon Bonaparte. And 2 days later, after kicking his ass again, Napoleon agreed to abdicate the throne and all claims he and his family had to it. After the War of the Sixth Coalition, Napoleon II and his mother, Maria Louise of the Austrian Empire, went into exile in the court of Maria's father, the Austrian Emperor Francis I, while Napoleon Bonaparte himself was exiled to a small island off the coast of Italy. The family never saw the other again. It's in these two separate locations, half a continent apart, that both father and son grew old and oh my god, Napoleon just escaped. Fuck. Yeah, so Napoleon was eventually able to escape his Mediterranean rock of an island in 1815, and he went straight back to doing what he did best. That is to say, getting thousands of Frenchmen to die for him and proclaiming himself emperor, which he did both of those things when he returned to France. So Napoleon is now back in charge of France, and all of the coalition members, presumably getting flashbacks to literally just a few months ago, declare immediate war on him. Not France, they declare war on Napoleon himself. In an effort to get the jump on them, Napoleon invades the Netherlands, which was a little stupid, because that's how Waterloo happened, the famous battle that saw the defeat of Napoleon once and for all. After Waterloo, Napoleon once again tried the shtick of putting his son on the throne, and technically, for a 2-week period, Napoleon II was the Emperor of France. The coalition members didn't recognize his rule, however, and after presumably slapping Napoleon on the back of the head, saying, "No, you stop that," made him once again renounce his entire family's right to the throne and put Louis XVIII, the relative of the previous French king before the Revolution, back on the throne of France. What did little Napoleon think of being the most powerful man in Europe for 2 weeks? We don't know. He was in Austria the whole time Napoleon was having his little episode, and he was also only 4 years old. So Napoleon is finally defeated for good, and he isn't sent back to his little Mediterranean paradise. Oh no. The coalition, unwilling to make the same mistake twice, chucks him over to a literal rock in the Atlantic Ocean, closer to South America than it is to France. And so ends Napoleonic rule over France, until, well, later, but this video is about Napoleon II, and I already strayed far too long. So Napoleon II, now known as Franz after a Germanization of his second name, was the topic of a lot of discussion in Austria, where he now lived. At the Concert of Europe, a meeting where all the powers of the time decided how Europe would be divvied up after Napoleon, it was agreed that Franz wouldn't keep his title as the King of Italy, and he sure as shit wouldn't be the Emperor of France. But the powers decided that he could be known as the Prince of Parma, as a treat. So Franz's childhood in Austria was, by all accounts, pretty good. He didn't see his mother very often, but he was educated a lot by his grandfather, the aforementioned Emperor Francis I. And Francis had a pretty good and loving relationship with his grandson, which, is a nice change of pace for royal families. In 1818, when Franz was 7, he was given the title Duke of Reichstadt, a German territory, by Francis, and it is from here on that the young boy's education really started to take a more martial bend. In fact, according to some accounts, Franz loved the idea of the military so much that he would often run around in a little uniform like his father's and conduct drills in it, which is frankly pretty adorable. At this point, it was pretty clear to his tutors that this kid wanted to be a part of the army. This idea worried the powers of Europe, though, including Francis. There was still a good portion of people in France who thought Franz was the rightful emperor, and the powers thought that if he ever controlled an army, he would be encouraged to use it to follow in the footsteps of dear old dad. At age 12, he was given a position in the Austrian army as a cadet, but he held no real authority, and was denied by Francis himself to even join an army marching south to put down a rebellion in Italy. As he aged, it was clear that the military was important to Franz, with his tutors describing him as disciplined, serious, focused, and also very intelligent, or in other words, a massive nerd. This value on the military also made it pretty clear that Franz favored his father a lot more than he did his mother. After Napoleon died in 1821, Franz began to dwell on the thoughts and memories of his father even more, looking up to the famed general. His mother didn't help things when it was revealed to Franz that she had borne 2 illegitimate children with another man, and the two became even more distant after this, with Franz actually once remarking to a friend, "My mother is kind, but she is weak. She was not the wife my father deserved." Jeez, harsh words, Junior. Eventually, in 1831, Franz was finally allowed to wield command of a battalion of his own, presumably because Francis had thought enough time had passed from Napoleon I to Napoleon II, and I think because he actually did genuinely love his grandson and wanted him to be happy. Plus, the prestige was nice. Tragically, though, Franz never got to lead his battalion in any meaningful way. In 1831, the young duke began coughing, and he was bedridden for many months soon after, fading in and out of consciousness. It was pneumonia, and then tuberculosis. On July 22nd, 1832, Napoleon Franz Bonaparte died. He was 21. With the death of Franz, the Bonaparte line of succession ended, and so in theory, the crown of the French Empire passed to Napoleon I's brother, Joseph Bonaparte, and then later to Louis Napoleon Bonaparte, or by another name, Napoleon III. The last note history has on the young boy Emperor Franz Bonaparte comes about a century after his death, when his remains were ordered to be moved from Austria to Paris into the tomb of Napoleon, and you will never guess who was behind this. Any guesses? You're wrong, it was Hitler. Yep, in 1940, Hitler ordered the remains of Napoleon II to be transferred to Paris. History's crazy, right? So, when I began research for this video, it was fully just to ride on the train of the Napoleon movie coming out here soon. But as I researched it more, the story of Napoleon II actually became kind of tragic to me, because he was this kid who was born, and from the moment he was born, he was expected to hold the world. He was crowned the emperor when he was 3 years old, and ever since then, everyone, the eyes of the world were on him. As he aged, though, the one thing he really wanted to lead an army or be in the military, he wasn't allowed to do that because, of what his father did. And so he was always really under watch because of the actions of another person. And he didn't even get to interact with his father. He was 3 the last time he saw him. So his life was predetermined by someone he probably didn't even have a memory of. And I don't know if Napoleon II or Franz would think that his life was like a tragedy in this sense. There were no real records to say like he was depressed about it or anything. He seemed pretty upbeat actually throughout his life. But I don't know. It always just it struck me as kind of tragic in that way. But yeah, that's this video on Napoleon II. I just thought it'd be a good topic to really introduce to a lot of people. I didn't even know who Napoleon II was before doing research for this video, so I thought it was really interesting, and hope you guys find it interesting too. And I'll admit I'm fully riding on that YouTube bandwagon algorithm with a movie coming out, but I still enjoyed recording it, and I hope you guys enjoyed watching it, because it really means a lot with any views like coming to watching a video I made, and maybe if I'm lucky getting to teach people something about something I'm passionate about. It's just it means a lot to me, and I'm glad you guys have been watching. So thank you for watching, and I hope you liked it, and I'll see you guys next time. Thanks. Bye.